Hey everyone, Chad here. This past weekend, my family and I were watching Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, the one by Andrew Lloyd Webber. Apparently he's streaming them on YouTube for everyone to watch, and it's kind of a fun thing to do, to sit down and watch a musical like that together. But one of the things, there was one scene in there that I thought was fantastic, and it brought up a question for me, because there's a spot where Pharaoh is telling his dream to Joseph. Joseph is kind of struggling with whether he can interpret this or not. And at one point, he goes over to the narrator who opens a Bible for him and points to the place where his dreams are, or where Joseph interprets Pharaoh's dreams, so that Joseph is then able to go with confidence to the Pharaoh and say, hey, these are the interpretations of your dreams. It's almost as though he got a little glimpse of the end of the story, and that helped him to be able to continue the story. As cliche as that sounds, that's kind of how we approach this particular Holy Week. We come into this week knowing that the tensions are going to rise, that there is going to be more direct challenge from the religious leaders towards Jesus and from Jesus towards the religious leaders. We know that there's going to be a lot more going on as people start to betray Jesus, and then he eats a meal with his disciples telling them that he's going to die and they're going to leave, and then we go into Good Friday where Jesus is actually crucified, and then he's laid in a tomb, and Saturday he lays to rest, and then on Sunday he's raised from the dead. And so as Christians, we go into this week recognizing and mourning the sadness and the brokenness that is in this world. But we also go knowing that Sunday's coming. S.M. Lockridge, he was the pastor of Calvary Baptist Church in San Diego for about 40 years. And he has this one really good clip that I'm sure you can find if you Google Sunday's coming. I want to read a couple of parts to you. He says, it's Friday. And Jesus is praying, Peter's sleeping, and Judas is betraying, but Sunday's coming. It's Friday. Pilate's struggling, the council is conspiring, the crowd is vilifying. They don't even know that Sunday's coming. It's Friday. The disciples are running like sheep without a shepherd. Mary's crying. Peter is denying. But they don't know that Sunday's coming. It's Friday. The world is winning. People are sinning, and evil's grinning. It's Friday. But let me tell you something. Sunday's coming. And the same is true for us. Sunday is coming. And this time where we are isolated from one another, and where we are really worried and people are dying around the world because of a new virus, that time will not last forever. And not only do we know the end of that story, that it will run its course and that God will lead us through this, but even those who pass away, if they believe in Jesus, they will be with him. Because we know that death is not the end of the story. And so this week, I want you to not only think about the brokenness and the heartaches that are in this world, but also to think about the celebrations that we will be having on Easter Sunday as a prelude to the celebration that we will be having when Jesus finally comes back. And if you'd like to join in that celebration, then I invite you to send a little video clip of you and your family or whoever else making some kind of noise, some kind of celebration, whether that's banging on pots and pans or ringing bells if you have any, or however you want to do it. And if you're a part of our Woody Nook Christian Reformed Church, I invite you to send those into the office on the email so that we can then splice together some of that and put that in our worship service for Easter Sunday so we can celebrate together. Remember, it does feel like Friday, but don't forget, Sundays